our dear beloved Indonesia. It's time to stop and take a break, to distance ourselves for a while and hope for a better future. We are longing to hear the sounds of the waves and to see the beauty that awaits around every corner of this land. Our beautiful motherland, the time will come when the sky will again shine bright and we'll come back stronger.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another webinar series organized by Indonesian Diaspora Network Netherlands by Task Force Liveable Cities. My name is Pauline Budianto, and I'm going to open this meeting and gonna be your host for until the end of the event. Today, we are going to discuss further upon the topic of sustainable waterfront design. And before we start the event, please let me greet several remarkable guests who join with us tonight. First is His Excellency Lars Bo Larsen, the Ambassador of Denmark to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and Papua New Guinea, and also ASEAN. And also Her Excellency Dewi Savitri Wahab, the Ambassador of Republic of Indonesia to Denmark. Also Mrs. Karina Charlotte Mosgaard, the Deputy Head of Trade Embassy of Denmark to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and ASEAN. Also Mrs. Wiwi Tjiook, our moderator tonight, Mr. Kai-Uwe Bergmann from Bjarke Ingels Group, and Mr. Peter Mayntzhusen from Urban Rigger, Mr. Muhammad Luthfi Eko Nugroho from Development Planning Agency Semarang City, Mr. Sutedja S Darmono from PT Jababeka, and Mr. Sonny Sutanto from SSA's Architect. And once again, I welcome you to all distinguished guests and participants. This event will not be here without the support of our beloved sponsors, which are Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy from Republic of Indonesia, Groundforce, Sutedja, Indonesian Diaspora Network of Netherlands, and the Embassy of Denmark to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and ASEAN. The organizer of this event, IDN Liveable City, is a platform, a hub for ideas, resources, network to counterbalance unsustainable, inhumane, or even over-commercialized development cities by promoting best practice in Indonesian cities. Our activities are also supported by the Embassy of Republic Indonesia to the Netherlands, Indonesian Diaspora Network Global, and also Indonesian Diaspora Network United. As your host, I would like to remind all participants to mute your microphone during the presentation and merely unmute during the group discussion. You could also raise your question by writing them down on the chat room. And in addition to that, I would like to inform you that this whole webinar will be recorded for the documentation purpose. For those of you who prefer not showing your face during the recording, you are welcome, of course, to turn off your camera. And I would like to invite you to fill in the presence list, which is already available in the chat room. We encourage you to all fill it in, fill the form maybe while listening to the presentation. And without further ado, I would like to give the time to His Excellency Lars Bo Larsen, the Ambassador of Denmark to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and ASEAN, to deliver his speech. Your Excellency, you have 3 minutes, and the time is now yours.
Well, thank you so much, Pauline, and good evening to everybody here on this side of the water, and good day to friends from Europe. It's a big honor for me to join this webinar. I've been looking forward to it. I think coming to Jakarta, as I did in August this year, is such an amazing experience, and I think it shows, I would say, the future of the world in all its opportunities, but also some of the challenges. And I think if you come to this a great urban area, the second largest in the world, maybe 32 million people living here in one collective urban area, I think it's clear that there is both the negative side, but clearly also all the opportunities. Everybody has been talking about, of course, the congestion problem, the traffic issues, the air pollution that we sometimes encounter here, but also the floodings. And I think these are some of the challenges that, of course, come with such an urbanization that we have here on Java, but also I think globally around the world. This is clearly the direction of the world, but also the opportunities. And frankly speaking, in all the sad stories about the COVID pandemic, as we counter also here, I do think that there is also an upside in it that we have to reflect upon now. We do see less traffic. We do see more walking, cycling around the city. We do encounter better air quality. So I think we have to remember these things also as we move past the pandemic, and use this chance also to invest in livable cities. Because even though there are challenges connected to the urbanization that we see in this area and also across the world, I think the opportunities are even larger in investing in effective cities, smart ways of living with nature and in nature, and also better ways to communicate with each other. Looking now at Denmark, what do we have to offer there? Of course, clearly we don't have the numbers that we have here or find here in the Jakarta areas, but we do have 30-40 years of very focused investments in livable cities, one way or the other. And actually, you could argue maybe even further. I note, of course, also the links to the Netherlands here. This was my first posting when I moved there some 20 years ago. I was also looking at the ways that the Netherlands are working or living with and in the water, you could say. And this is something that we have been importing also from the Danish side over 400 years, as we invited the Dutch to go and build the inner harbor of Copenhagen. I think today we are in a different place. I think today we have developed many different solutions of how to combine the waterfront and the cities that we're living in. And I think comparing the Netherlands and Denmark, Indonesia and Denmark, those two countries are both archipelagos, basically built on islands. One of the few countries in the world where more than 95% of the borders are coastal line. So we have to find a way to also interact across the cities towards the water. So for today's webinar, I'm looking very much forward to learning about some of these new ideas, how we can also develop. I remember as a young man, I was really hoping to also live at the waterfront, maybe on a houseboat or something. But today, I think we can do this in much smarter ways. So I'm looking forward to learning more. Let me also mention under the smart city concept here. We do also find a number of Danish companies contributing to the developments in Indonesia and across ASEAN. We have one of the major engineering companies, Rambøll, winning a contract under the ASEAN Smart Cities Network, developing right now ideas for 30+ cities, including also 6 here in Indonesia. And today we're going to hear two of the most prominent architects, idea creators when it comes to sustainable urbanization that are really able to create the future with us. So with this, I think I spent my 3 minutes now. So Pauline, back to you. I'm looking very much forward to it, and all the best and stay safe to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your inspiring speech, Your Excellency. Next, I would like to introduce our moderator, Mrs. Wiwi Tjiook. Wiwi Tjiook is a landscape architect currently working for the Urban Planning Department of the Rotterdam Municipality. Her expertise is in landscape and urban design, with a passion for integrated water and landscape planning. From 1986 till 1997, she worked on projects in Indonesia and throughout Southeast Asia, United Kingdom, and Australia. And since 2013, she's actively involved in the task force of Livable Cities of Indonesian Diaspora Network, Netherlands, with integrated water and landscape planning as her specialization. Gladly, I hand over the discussion to the moderator, Mrs. Wiwi Tjiook. Go ahead, Wiwi.
Thank you so much, Pauline, for introducing me. A warm welcome to
You're
everyone. Can you hear me? A warm welcome to everyone to our third webinar, Sustainable Waterfront Design. Having the second longest coastline in the world, Indonesia has huge potentials to embrace its waterfront areas with resilient and attractive urban designs. Moreover, due to climate change, coastal areas get special attention. IDN Liveable Cities would like to explore further about this topic by raising a question: to what extent can design interventions by the waterfront contribute to the creation of a sustainable and livable cities? With examples from Copenhagen, New York, Semarang, and more, this webinar would like to facilitate knowledge exchange as well as discussion on how to design with water. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speakers and commentators for today. First of all, I would like to welcome our first speaker, joining us from New York, Kai-Uwe Bergmann from Bjarke Ingels Group, or abbreviated as BIG. Kai-Uwe Bergmann, FAIA, is a partner of BIG who brings his architectural expertise to proposals around the globe, including work in North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Kai-Uwe heads up BIG's business development, which currently has the office working in over 35 different countries. He also oversees BIG's urban scales projects and supports BIG's landscape projects. He is registered as an architect in 13 states in the USA and Canada. Kai-Uwe most recently contributed to the resiliency plan Big U to protect 10 miles of Manhattan's coastline. First envisioned through the Rebuild by Design competition to develop proactive responses to Superstorm Sandy, it is now being further developed and construction will begin on the first 2.5 miles in 2020. Further projects include Brooklyn Queens Park, Smithsonian Master Plan, Pittsburgh Master Plan, Miami Beach Square, and Sierra Island Master Plan. He complements his professional work through previous teaching assignments at the University of Pennsylvania, IE University in Madrid, and his alma mater, the University of Virginia. Kai-Uwe formerly was on the board of the Van Allen Institute, participates on numerous international juries, and lectures globally on the works of BIG. As our next speaker, I would like to welcome Peter Mayntzhusen of Urban Rigor, joining us from Copenhagen. Peter Mayntzhusen is the Chief Operating Officer of Urban Rigor, the company who develops and builds floating student housing in Copenhagen, Denmark. His background as a constructing architect and project manager has brought him to his expertise in architecture, construction, and urban development in Denmark. Altogether, with his team at Urban Rigor, the company has won many design awards in Denmark and abroad. In his recent projects, he has worked closely with world-class architects such as BIG and many more. And next, I would like to welcome Bapak Luthfi Eko Nugroho, joining us from Semarang. He's on board of the Development Planning Agency of Semarang. Muhammad Luthfi Eko Nugroho, or Pa Luthfi, is the head of Infrastructure and Environment Research and Development Subdivision of Bapeda, or the Development Planning Agency of Semarang City. He also acts as the Chief Resilience Officer of Semarang City under the 100 Resilient Cities program initiated by the Rockefeller Foundation. He has an educational background in Master of Urban and Regional Development of the Diponegoro University in Semarang. He also has practical experience in various fields, including urban and regional planning, infrastructure planning, environment, sustainable development, climate change, disaster risk reduction, community empowerment, and city resilience. Next, I would like to welcome our commentators. First of all, a warm welcome to Bapak Sutedja Darmono of PT Jababeka. Pak Sutedja Siddhartha Darmono was appointed as director of PT Jababeka in 2014 and has since been the director of the holding company of Jababeka. PT Jababeka is a group of companies involved in land development and property, infrastructure, leisure, and hospitality. One of the leading real estate players in Indonesia, especially in industrial estate. Pak Sutedja has been President Director of PT Graha Buana Cikarang, a subsidiary of PT Jababeka since 2013. PT Graha Buana Cikarang is a company that develops a self-sustained city covering 5,600 hectares of land in Bekasi Regency. During his tenure, Pak Sutedja has successfully added substantial residential area and mixed-use development projects into the company's portfolio. As part of his endeavors in Jababeka, Pak Sutedja hopes to make an impact in the Indonesian property world, building the most complete township in Cikarang to be copied in other parts of Indonesia as part of the vision of the company to establish 100 cities. And last but not least, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Bapak Sonny Sutanto of Sonny Sutanto Architects. Pak Sonny Sutanto is a Jakarta-based architect and founded the architectural firm Sonny Sutanto Architects in 2003. He received his bachelor degree in architecture from the University of Indonesia in 1986. And after working for 2 years, he pursued his master's degree in architecture at the University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA, in 1990. During his 25 years of working experience, he received several architectural design awards from the Indonesian Institute of Architects and from the Association of Asian Architects, or Arcasia. He is a member of the City Council Building and Planning Review, or TABG, in Jakarta, and he is also a member of the Board of Academic Reviewer at the University of Indonesia in Jakarta and the Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta. Thank you all for joining, and now I would like to share the rundown. So we will have 3 presentations from each 20 minutes from our keynote speakers, followed by 2 reflections of each 5 minutes from our commentators. After this, we will have 20 minutes of parallel discussion in our breakout rooms. And after that, we will come together again in the plenary session where we will have 25 minutes of questions and answers session. And meanwhile, the participants who have their questions can write down their questions in the chat box. And if possible, you can write to whom you address the question. Then there will be 5 minutes conclusion and reflection from my side, followed by a group photo session and a closing statement by Ibu Pauline. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the first presenter, Mr. Kai-Uwe Bergmann. Kai, please start your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiwi. Can everyone see my screen? Selamat malam. Good evening. Thank you, Your Excellency Lars Bo Larsen, for the introduction. Thank you, Ambassador from Indonesia to Denmark, and also a special thanks to Karina Mosgaard for making this happen. I am a partner at Bjarke Ingels Group, and I would like to really show you how Denmark, which is of course a very small country, can actually have a very major impact on the thinking of coastal cities and coastal designing with water. Because even though Denmark is a rather small country, it is made up of over 400 islands, and it has a very rich seafaring tradition. And knowing that Indonesia has over 10,000 of islands, 6,000 of which are inhabited, I think we share this special connection. And so we have always, over centuries, had to live with water. And I'm going to show you through a series of projects how big is designing with water. We have offices around the world. This is our office in New York, where I am currently from. And this is our home in Copenhagen. And you can see how much the water is actually interacting with the city. Bjarke Ingels is actually living on a boat, on an old ferry. And this is his view from the boat over to our power plant that we've just opened called Copenhill in the city of Copenhagen. When you start to think about water, you begin to also think about how it is actually an incredibly connecting element in all of the countries. Actually, by 2050, 90% of the world's largest cities will be exposed to rising seas. And this is something that we all must deal with, and especially in Indonesia, and especially in Jakarta, this is a topic that is on everyone's mind. Here in New York, it is remarkable how much the city has changed from this view of the 1930s, where you see that the entire waterfront was a working waterfront with boats and ships coming in and trade and commerce. One of the most remarkable transformations of the city over the last 15 years has been how all of the waterfront has now actually turned into a kind of green, recreational, something that the city can actually use as a front door or a park, as opposed to only a commercial kind of thinking. Many of you may remember 8 years ago when a superstorm Sandy hit the city and knocked the power out for many of the New Yorkers and caused $20 billion of damage. We have since been asked to help design and protect the city against future storm events and climate change. So we designed a project called the Big U. But instead of only thinking of this as an engineering exercise of keeping the water out of the city, we want to think of how can the infrastructure also include the humans, the scale of the human, the activities of the human. So we call this social infrastructure, infrastructure that is keeping you dry, but also that is allowing you to enjoy life, to increase the quality of life of the citizens. So our proposal, which is 10 miles of protecting the New York waterfront, is also about enjoying that life. And you can see here with the bike paths, with the park, with the sort of rising berm, which is protecting you against the sea. That is now a new way of actually engaging the waterfront, one that protects you against those events that occur from time to time. And New York has actually now over the course of the last years, put this plan into place. So I'm very proud to say that the first 2.5 miles of the 10-mile protection is starting construction. And the city is making the investments in that future. We can learn a lot by looking around our cities, including Indonesia, Bajau village in the lower left. We can also learn a lot from nature about how to store water, how to passively evaporate water, and so forth. So by being inspired of the 17 sustainable development goals from the UN, we started to think about how can we start to imagine living on the water. So of course, when you start thinking about that, you have to think about the waste systems, the fresh water systems, the food systems. And so by starting with a person, we begin to look at all of the things that are required. So how can you create a circular economy, a circular way of dealing with requirements and everything else that's needed in order for you to actually sustain life in and around the water. So we have designed a sort of pontoon that is both below the water that you can see here, that creates the stability, and then also placing a platform above that can then collect rainwater, that can incorporate living gardens, that can start to also have the systems of aeroponics and aquaponics to allow for 3D ocean farming, so that sectionally you can begin to see how we imagine taking an idea where you could have suddenly 10,000, even larger, 60 to 100,000 of people that are able to live within coastal areas, protected, of course, by bays, that allow for us to take these innovations in farming and also harvesting the sea life in a way that would make life actually livable. The shape of the architecture you can see also is one where you start to have large areas of solar heat gain, and you can see how these pontoons can be arranged to create an archipelago, and you can see here how that life could actually exist. So this is a project that was actually sponsored and done by the UN. I'm sorry, this is very strange. It just started over, so I'm going to quickly presented at the UN Habitat Conference last November and is now in its first prototype. So this is also something that we've already actually built and is in Copenhagen. This is the Urban Rigger project that Peter is going to go much further into detail. But the concept was to, the upcycling of containers is nothing new. Many, many people have done it before. But here was the idea of how do you arrange the containers to actually sustain and support the social life that is necessary to actually have an enjoyable place to live and to work and to play. So there's a built-in solar roof. There's a green roof that keeps the rainwater, and then you have an active social roof. There are, in this case, about 12 apartments, but we are also in 2.0 designing up to 24 apartments. These can be studios, but also 1 or 2 bedrooms. So this is an actual prototype built on the pontoon at a smaller scale of what the sustainable floating home can be. And this construction is actually something that can be built to about 1/2 of the typical sort of bedroom or apartment, and it can be built in 1/3 the traditional time that you would need to build, in this case, dorm rooms or apartment complexes. So both from a building timeline and also from a cost, it is something that is very, very affordable. So the city of Copenhagen actually ordered 5 more based on the first prototype, And now there are 72 residents in Copenhagen living on the water, in this case on a brownfield site. So again, the world is what we have. We need to work within those resources. And Peter is going to go further into the detail of what urban rigor is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kai, for your amazing presentation. It's very inspiring. I would like to give the floor now to Peter. Peter, please start your presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. So I'll try to share my screen, but first, let's see here how that goes. And I will start slideshow. Can everyone see the first slide? Yes, good. Thank you very much for presenting the one of the most spectacular projects I have ever been participating with rigor. Thank you much for IDN to allow us to be able to be part of this, and again to the embassy for supporting us in coming forward with what we believe is a product that can be useful in many ways. My background is I have been working in construction for many years, and the latest project I was with was working for the Lego family to build the family's dream was the Lego house, which Bjarke Ingels designed, and it was one of my most spectacular projects ever. Finish such a big project, you look for what's the next big thing I want to do. Funny enough, Big contacted me about urban rigor, and I took a trip down to Copenhagen to see what this urban rigor idea was, and I was so fascinated about the idea of the geometry and the possibilities of an urban rigor. That is where my career started at urban rigor. Urban rigor is a team, and the executive chairman of urban rigor is Lars Funding, which has a background from shipping and is part of the executive part of the company urban rigor. Myself, I have been working with the technical issues with urban rigor, the production part of urban rigor, and trying to make what is very important for us is a global solution and production possible. The first prototype I lived in for 2.5 years to understand what it meant to live in a container, what it meant to live on sea, and that's actually the way I have been able to construct the first production lines.
Excuse me to interrupt, Peter. The sound is not going very well. Do you perhaps have a headset?
I have my headset on.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Is it working now, or is it going too slow?
No, there is an echo.
Try something else. The sound here.
Perhaps you can try.
Does that work better? Is the sound better?
Yes.
Yes, it's better now. Yeah.
Good.
Please go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Once again, we also described how Denmark is also a land of many coast areas, and it's very interesting to see the heritage that we have in Denmark. Denmark is very initiative about sustainability and working very forward to become a carbon neutral city. We are across of the Little Mermaid that is placed in Copenhagen, and little red dot over there is us. Right beside it, we have the waste energy plant that has also been designed by Bjarke. We like to look at this as a really great idea that we got from Bjarke Ingels and his ideas of looking into the design. And I think the whole principal idea that Kai-Uwe also explained in the beginning is also very interesting to see how these floating elements can join together and be scalable and join in a larger community. And urban rigor is actually one of the first things you can actually see this possibility. I would like to all invite you to go in our YouTube channel, where we have actually a lot of small interviews we have carried during the last year, where we also have Bjarke Ingels explaining the idea behind urban rigor and how we can use these unused water areas from industrial ports that we have had in here in Copenhagen. But it's also very important to mention that a lot of the capital cities around the world are port cities. And this is also the opportunity for us to come in and help to use this area and become a waterfront property. Also to say that in Copenhagen, there's a lot of work being done to make sure the seawater is very clean. In Copenhagen, you can actually jump into the water with no problem and swim. But that is also because all the industrial area has been moved out of the city and is mainly kept away from the center. I think it's also important to see that the geometry that we have in an urban rigor is designed to create a small village, a community, and it's also very interesting to see how 360 degrees in the geometry of the containers gives us of the sea around. This is all possible because we have global partners, and our global partners are the big companies called Grundfos and Danfoss. And Grundfos and Danfoss have been very participant on us and helping us with the solutions for the pumps that we need to handle the wastewater, the pumps that we need to circulate the heating and make sure that we can supply warm water, we can supply heating in the apartments, and we can use the energy properly and make sure that we get the efficiency out of the technical issues we have on the riggers. And this is why it's very important for us to look at the SDG goals. And we believe that the 3 SDG goals we really want to focus on is the sustainable cities and communities, because we believe this is the way to make sure that we can deliver safe and affordable housing. Number 7, which is affordable and clean energy, is also part of our main interest, is to try to go at some point to be off-grid. Again, this is a small step that we have started out right now because we have solar panels and we have heating where we use the seawater to supply the energy for heating up. And last, which is very important for us, is to say that good health and well-being is part of living on an urban rigor. We think that the community is getting these problems that we have in the social part, where young people are living together and are brought together with the common spaces that we have on an urban rigor. Let's get into that detail. One of the persons also behind here is our marine engineer, Jesper, who has been building a lot of boats and houseboats and has been part of the person to help us with the structure of urban rigor. And it's very important to mention that there are 2 very interesting sustainable issues with an urban rigor. The first issue is to say that we have a low energy consumption. We use 3/4 of the heating energy taken out of the sea and only 1/4 energy which is coming from off-grid power. The next very important thing is to tell you that the superstructure maintenance is very, very low. The whole hull, the barge, the floating rig is in concrete and requires no maintenance, and we have a lifespan of approximately 100 years. The next is the containers, which are designed and to last, and since we do not use the shipping containers for transport anymore, we only use them for housing. It's a minimum amount of maintenance you will need to do on the containers because you will need to touch up the paint now and then. It's important for us to now say that we have a proof of a concept, a proof of production. We want to see how we can get this holistic housing development across the world. And it's all about a process on how we can see the need required in the locations and how we can develop this with other people. And this is all to be done together because we are not the ones who are going to come and decide how things are to be built. We are the ones who will propose a technology that works for us, and maybe it'll work for you also. The product is about integrating local workmanship to help design and build this. Of course, technology to tell, but we want that we can develop this idea across the world and say we can come in and help educate, integrate local suppliers and workers to developing of this concept, urban rigor. And at this point, we will say be a turnkey solution that we would like to offer. But it's all about participating. We are not alone on this, and we need to have the support from everyone to find out what the real question is about this and what the requirements are. And again, community. Community is a very important aspect of finding how to use an urban rigor. It's very important to say that urban rigor is adjustable to the rising sea levels we have. In Copenhagen, we have designed them to the maximum, what is required for being here in Copenhagen, which is 1.5 meters of sea tide difference. And this is all the part of the engineering where we have these mooring arms that are very special for connection. It's also very important to mention that the whole idea is scalability. So our goal through your partnership is the product. And I don't know if you have noticed that in our logo, we use the word, the future is floating. And it's very, you can also talk about the future is floating. We do believe the future will be floating, and we do believe this will be something that will be required more and more. And this is the manifest that we have developed from the idea of the floating. So we believe we're flexible. We believe we are livable. We have an original idea. We want to make this affordable. We want to use the newest technology. We want to include the local people who want to use this, and we want to be the new in the ideas. And last but not least, it's the good health that comes to the idea of floating. To make us more understand what we're working with, we have hired an anthropologist called Nina Poulsen, who has been working very much for us when we started out the rental part of student housing, and to see how we have the young people integrated into the urban rigors and how they start their own community and living on board an urban rigor. And we've also been unfortunate to be in the situation we are today with COVID-19, because 50% of our students are from abroad and 50% of our students are from Denmark. And that means when you move into a new city and you get locked down, that many of us are experiencing at the moment, it can be very, very difficult when you're far away from home. And I believe that this community has taken and handled this at a very good level for us. We would also like to say it's just not a house on the water. It's thoughts that have brought together that comes from different ways of thinking. I believe it's a container to a community. This is how we believe we want to be organizing community on an urban rigor. We have everyone a small apartment, but we also have a common area where we can join in together and be part of a social network. And moving into an urban rigor is not just I'd like to say it's from house to homes. It's not just a structure, it's a home where you feel welcome. It's part of your way of living, and it's a way of thinking. And when we get into this, we also notice that it takes a lot. If you move into an apartment in an old building, it's very to be created and sustainability. If you take urban rigor and you're in a community, it helps you bring in sustainable ideas that you want to work with. And it's actually that one thing is very important. It's easier to be several people to make a change than it is to be an individual to make a change. What really excites me also is that we actually have people that have been living on the rigors and are actually coming with their own experience. And again, and on our YouTube channel, which you also have access to after the seminar here, you'll be able to go in and listen to these people who really experience their way of living the urban rigor. I find it very interesting how people have a different way of looking at it. We have especially Tel from Germany, who actually thinks how important it is to sit in the window and look at the weather on an urban rigor. We also believe that we can be part of the disasters that happen around the world. And one of the things we've been asked to look into is planet is also the situation with hurricanes. Now we are participating in developing Texas Disaster Center on how urban riggers can withstand winds up to 150 miles per hour. And that is one of the technology things that we have been able to look at the design, the container structure, and the whole idea connection as you do in shipping, because shipping is designed to transport containers around the world. And we're quite in this and showing that actually at wind gusts of 150 miles per hour, the rigger with a weight of 650 tons only tilts 1.5 degrees, which is very little compared to the waves. Designing the new rigger 3.0, 2.0 and 1.0 have been consisted of 8 apartments. The new design will be of 18 apartments, and will have a living space area of 23 square meters per apartment, which is 470 square meters per area. You will also have the common areas of underneath the water, which is 257 square meters. And then you have all the exterior areas on board a rigger, which are the courtyards, the galleries, and rooftops, which is 323 square meters. A very good description here to show how an urban rigger is designed so you can connect 2 urban riggers to 1 urban rigger, making this very simple. And it's also what we're working on is working on a modular design, making it much easier to finish off and production working much faster, and being able to deliver a complete urban rigger within 2 years, and hopefully we will be able to get down to 1 year for the urban riggers. It's also very important to integrate an urban rigger, the community, and how you can use the space connecting, first of all, the community, but also connecting one land side to another land side for the public to be able to access one area. We believe we are the solution, and we do have the ideas of durable structures and withstand and extreme weathers, and we believe that we are going forward with new climate handling. Here's just some photographs I'd like to show of people, how they live in this. And it's very important that we are working on many ideas of how to use an urban rigger. We're looking into retail, we're looking into hotels, we're looking into offices, and all this is about what the need is required for an urban rigger. This is the area under the water, the utilities, the washing rooms. We have the exterior areas where you have access to the water directly. These are the projects that we're working in Copenhagen, where we are trying to move Copenhagen to become, will be the capital of architecture in 2023. We will hope we will be able to deliver the first floating city in Copenhagen, or even better in Indonesia. I think would be much fun to participate in this. Our project pipelines are very large right now. We are working on the east coast of the states, the west coast of the states. We're looking at homeless housing. We're looking at India, orphanages in India. We're looking at housing in Panama, in Australia, in Singapore, China, and England and Germany. So we are very occupied with trying to get out of across the world, but unfortunately we have been restricted of traveling for quite a few, like everyone has been. This is how it looks in Copenhagen. Again, we have 6 urban riggers placed here. We have 72 apartments and 100 residents living on board the urban riggers. And this is just an idea that we believe should be global instead of local. I'd like to thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me. And I hope it gave you an experience of urban rigger can and will be. And I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Peter. It was very inspiring and looks fantastic, also from the interiors, but also outside. And I see a lot of potential of it being implemented in Indonesia. I look forward also to the questions from the audience. Meanwhile, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat box. Now I would like to welcome Pak Luthfi Eko Nugroho. Pak Luthfi, please start your presentation. I hope you have.
Yeah, it for joining this discussion, but let me share my screen. I'm just want to share our experience. The Semarang is a city located in Indonesia. If the participant come from abroad, we will give you a brief explanation about. It is very interesting that I have not the or the presentation from Peter that the Waterfront design is not only a place to live, but it is also the way of living. So that is what our city do right now. Is still on progress. It called it as old Semarang revitalization. It is maybe very brief explanation that Semarang is in Indonesia, in Central Java, one of the capital of the province in Indonesia. Then we also have the strategic position within our position in the middle of the Java Island. So in between of the two biggest cities in Indonesia, Jakarta and Surabaya. So automatically Semarang development following the development from those two big cities. Little bit the land use condition. You can see that almost part of Semarang is now is a built-up area, and then we facing so many problems. In the northern part of the city, we have the Sea of Java that is our constraint to develop the city, and then we also have the hilly area in the south that we have limited the development in the upstream. Otherwise, the water that come from the upstream to the downstream will be a disaster. Yeah, Semarang is become the 5th big city in Indonesia after Jakarta, Surabaya, and then I don't know, maybe some people say that Bandung or Medan, and then Semarang. It is like typical of the third country city in the world that facing the problem because of the unbalanced development. So the need of the space is very high, but on the other hand, we have also a lot of natural limitation. So let me try to explain the history of Semarang that actually is formed from the young alluvium. You can see in the presentation that the location of the Semarang downtown is previously is an ocean. So the hilly line of the southern part of Semarang, you can see in the brighter color, and then the darker is a water at the pass. Then if we combine with the satellite imagery now, you can see that almost 2/3 of the cities located in the flat area that close to the sea, and we also have 10 rivers. So you can imagine that we live very close with the water coming from the ocean and also water coming from the river. And also we facing the land subsidence problem because of the city from the young alluvium soil. It is still happen of natural compaction in the city. So in some part of the city, the level of the land subsidence more than 10 until 12 centimeter per year, located in nearby the city seaport. And then also another problem related to the cities is classical problem like congestion, and then the floods, the solid waste management, the drought, and then the air pollution, the water pollution, the poverty, unemployment, diseases, outbreak, and aging infrastructure, and also disaster. We actually in the rainy season we have abundance of water, so some part of the city still flat. In the rainy season, still facing the some part of the city, we still facing the lack of water, especially in the area that not supported by the pipeline from the city. And you can see this is only the periodic historic flash flood in Semarang. So we have actually two characteristic of flood in our city. The first is flash flood because we only have less than 15 kilometers from the upstream to the downstream, from the upstream to the coast. So the water is coming very fast, and in some part you can see West Nile in 1990 is a very big. Is the biggest flood in the modern history of Semarang. And the second is in 2010 in Pringin River or Kali Pringin. And then the second is not really the flash flood, but only like the combination from the water that cannot flow to the coast, to the sea, and also the water coming from the sea. So in the local people usually say that this is a ROP. ROP is like a tidal inundation. So it's actually not really a tidal, only the tidal, but the combination water coming from the river and coming from the ocean. So that's why we try to have a flood management system, comprehensive flood management system by the all of the access from the sea by the sea dike, and then we build the retention pond in nearby the dike to put the water that coming from the upstream. Otherwise, if they don't put it in the retention pond, the water will flood to the housing or the commercial nearby the coast. So from the upstream, we put the water in the retention pond first, and then pumping the water and flow it into the ocean. So because this is very complicated, I don't know, maybe in this discussion, I will get a new insight or a new technology that can solve our problem. Otherwise, this is the best method that we know until today, that control the water from the upstream, and then keep the water in the upstream as long as possible, and then we also build the diversion canal. You can see the canal that come from the west to the east, and then to diverse, so the volume of the water is not too big. And then after we hold the water as much as possible, then the rest of the water we can directly pump to the ocean. So the way of living in harmony with the water is actually we have a very long history in the past, in the colonial era, that we want to bring back the glory of Semarang, that utilizing the water to the city life, to the city economy, and so we can grow, then can develop the city. You can see the picture is the old Semarang River. In the past, is the port of the Semarang is located in this river. You can imagine that the big ships in that river, and then the trade activity, the economic activities also happen in there at the moment. But it was the in the era of the colonial. So after the independence era, so some of the canals that are made by the Dutch at the moment is not utilizing very well by the city government, and some problem just some problem comes from the canals that in the past is have a potential. Nowadays it's a problem with the pollution, the sanitation, and then the waste management and so on. So that's why we have a big plan. You can see the red line is a Semarang River or Kali Semarang. We want to revitalize the area alongside the Semarang River. So we have several areas that the most iconic area is the old city or the Kota Lama. Kota Lama is the Dutch building that at the moment is the center of activity of the city of Semarang. And then in the other area is Kampung Melayu. Kampung Melayu is now being revitalized, supported by the Ministry of the Public Works in the national government. Now it's still ongoing progress. I'm sorry, I'm already share the animation or the video, but because of the size of the animation is maybe too big, we cannot put it in the material of this discussion. And then Kampung Melayu is like the old kampung that at the moment is from the origin people of Java, and also from its surrounding. And another area is Kampung Kauman. Kampung Kauman is consists of the people coming from the Arabic, and then India, and also some part of the Northern Africa. And then also the last is the Kampechinan, is like a Chinatown. So we want to create or revitalize the river, and from the revitalization of the Semarang River, we can bring back all of the area that located alongside the river can contribute to the. So it's only a small preview that in the past the Semarang River is have important role. So you can see that the form of the city is following the path of the city. So everyone live nearby the Semarang River or Kali Semarang. So the current situation, the canal or the river is, you can see the picture is full of housing, illegal housing, and then full of the waste, and it's not really well managed. And we have more than 8,000 meters that we have to do something with these rivers. So starting from 2014, I think we try to redesign the revitalization of the Semarang River from the starting point or the upstream of the Semarang River until the downstream, or until the coastline. You can see that the design from each spot of the area nearby the Semarang River. And you can see the existing condition, situation is the river is not function properly. You can see there is no people activity in there in the left side of the presentation, and then it's become the like old vehicle that already broken, and put it nearby the river. That we want to make it human friendly, so the activity can everyone can do a activity in there. So we also already start from the more than 8,000 meter. You can see the left, in the left is the previous situation. You can see that there are so many illegal housing alongside the river, but now we already move the citizen there, and then put it in a and also reallocate them to our vertical housing. Then we succeed to create the new open space alongside the Semarang River. And then in the right, you can see and the back wall of the housing, and then everyone throw their waste there, their solid and also another domestic waste to the river. But now we already changed the situation, become more friendly for the human activity, for the tourism activity in the city. So, and the next is behind the city hall, our office. Previously is like a slum area. It's a dark area without any attraction there. But now we already built some open space and also some to some rehabilitation to the road, and then to the accessories in the alongside the rivers. So it's now it's everyone can enjoy the river, fun, very fun. And then yeah, the highest goals that's what I mentioned before, that it's not only the place to live, but we want to create the way of the living in Semarang, living with harmony, with the water. So it is our actually our goals to try to utilize the water, become at least become the Venice, like a Venice in Java, with the clean rivers, and then not polluted by the domestic activity and in the industrial. It is our goals that we want to achieve. And it is still need support from not only from the local government, but also from the national government. And before I end the presentation, I just want to share the picture of our prototype of the floating house in Semarang. It's located in the northern part of Semarang. It was made by the Ministry of Public Works at the moment to give the solution that if the people want to live in the nearby the river or nearby the coast, they still can live, or they can adapt easily, not always facing the flood or the land subsidence, but the situation is more flexible by the building of the floating house. But it's still prototype, and then the price of the construction is still high. We need to make it affordable for the low income community, because mostly people live in the northern part of the city or nearby the rivers. Mostly are the low income community. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you. Looking forward for interesting discussion, and then I will give back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Luthfi. Thank you to show all the challenges and all the progress that has been made by the city of Semarang. And I also have seen this floating building while I was in Semarang last year. So yeah, thank you so much. Next, I would like to invite Pa Sutedja, the first commentator, to reflect on the previous presentations or share your thoughts on today's theme. Pa Sutedja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Please let me share a presentation of my own.
Yes.
Although it's just
yes, please.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yes. It's perfect.
Sorry. Okay, it's clear, right? But I cannot hear your voice though.
Yes, it is clear.
It's clear.
Okay, I couldn't hear your voice just now. Okay. Okay, hello.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, okay, okay. So I think I would like to share this very quickly. I tried to pack everything into one page, but this is basically a presentation that showcase two different townships. One is based on resort on the left, which is Tanjung Lesung, which is the special economic zone, and on the right side is a township that we have in Cikarang. But I think very much what the previous speakers have presented, they are very much in line with what we have here. I mean, some of those issues that is being faced by a lot of, for example, in Manhattan with this, the seashore and everything. It's the same case for our Tanjung Lesung area, where we do try to do abrasion wall protection here, which is actually really, on the tipping point but basically this Tanjung is an Indonesian word for peninsula. So the tipping point of that peninsula is it's a very prompt area for a disaster. So this is a bit like Manhattan. What we try to do is to try to build a 13.8 kilometers coastline of abrasion wall, but it will be based on a tourism experience-oriented development. So we try to create some activities much like what the previous presenter presented, that we try to make certain lifestyle activities there. So if you see that within our tourism experience here is we try to create the sustainability, quality, and also uniqueness of that area. There's a plan to develop a marina in that area, around 163 hectares of area, where we will do things like jogging track, and then other maybe what we have like the sports for the beach and so on, and also we do a lot of other entertainments and so on, so that this waterfront design can basically try to fit in the key principle of livable place, and also a lifestyle that integrates facilities and infrastructure, and also becoming an environmental friendly for that area, and as well definitely mitigate some potential disaster like flooding and so on from the tidal wave. So that is what we are trying to achieve under our special economic zone. We try to create all this lifestyle and culture and commercial within the development of Tanjung Lesung, where it is actually very much oriented on the waterfront design city, because it is a resort, much like probably people know Bali or Nusa Dua, but this is a new area, so it's a special economic zone. But I think also to highlight some of the other speaker, especially Pak Luthfi, he was talking a lot about a township. We have done a township in Cikarang area. It's a 30-year a township, and there's a lot of development that we have done. We have reached about 1 million people of population within that area. And that is why I think all this problem that is being experienced by Semarang, we have it there as well, such as the river flooding and flood control that we have to do. So we try to do over there as well by building dikes and also doing flood control, doing a lot of, retaining ponds and so on. that is to not only help with the flood and also the local water inflow and outflow, but as well to maintain the water supply in our township. But as well, we try to apply that to our residentials and our commercial. Try to revamp the river that is surrounding our township, creating products or projects like Paradiso or the Oscar or Asian Village. This is basically an initiative to renew those areas, becoming a lifestyle center, becoming a residential area where I think having a very good view of the water based area, can be a river, can be a lake. So this basically helps with the control of water, and as well having benefit out of what is the design. So I think both of these developments that we have encompass much what the other speakers have mentioned earlier. I just have one interesting point that I'm curious whether a floating house can be actually applied to Indonesia, because right now I think the problem of recognizing a floating house as a giving a certificate for it, it's not like a simple landed establishment where you can get the certificate of the land or something. What is the basis for that? I think that needs to be discussed as well if later we have some discussion time to discuss. But I think that's my comment for the other speakers, and thank you for giving the time.
Thank you so much, Pak Sutedja. It's great to see these visions because there are so many architects joining, and I think there's a lot of potential to develop things. I would like now to give the floor to Pak Sonny Sutanto as the last commentator. Pak Sonny, please start your presentation.
Yes, okay, thank you, Bu. What Kai and VIJ has done, I think is very interesting because it started from something that is real. The problem is real, the skill is takeable, and then what Big VIJ has done with the floating and also in the Manhattan works really applied to the sites, to the location. The New York things is too very big. I think it takes long. It's really needs big effort, political pressure, whatever. But the one in Copenhagen is very interesting because it can be applied, and we can see that it expands from one units into so many units, and then maybe grow all over the world. The issue of identity in certain different cultures, etc., etc. I think is very typical in architecture, where it's going to be tempered with the international style that applied everywhere. Or if the architect can apply that design into and also comply with certain cultural issue, because all over the different places has different cultural issue. What I see in this issue is if we try to see that in our Indonesian context, I think it's very, very different, because here in Indonesia, when we think about water, about canal, about reservoir, what we see, like Pak Luthfi mentioned, is basically a lot of trash, a lot of garbage. Unclean embankment is very much a backyard for everybody to throw garbage. I've been involved in a couple projects in Jakarta. I mean, the project was basically aimed at reviewing some of the lakes, some of the reservoir, and also pedestrian around the canals. What I see is basically if we can change the canal, the pedestrian beside the canal, like what Pak Luthfi mentioned in Semarang, and then we push the pedestrian as close as possible to the water, then it works very well. I've done a small project, not really small, it's a 45 hectares reservoir in Jakarta Utara, north of Jakarta, the Sunter area. Can I share a screen now? May I share the screen? I got a bit of information on that one, which I think based on my experience with the city government, I think what we need to propose in Indonesia is very much has to be in a smaller scale and applicable. I don't believe in big things. I don't believe in big concept because basically they stop at concept. But we can work on certain area. I mean the smaller scale and also more realistic scale of project. I think is workable. I cannot share the.
I think you should be able to share the screen yourself. You are co-host.
Yes, but this I'm disabled.
Oh, you're a co-host. So the center button.
Yes. Oh yeah, now I can do it. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I do. Yeah. Okay. Then. Oh, I think the drawings.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll show a bit on what we expect can expect in Indonesia. I mean things like this, small things, changing canals, and then bringing people into participation, and then change it into something that people can enjoy, people can see, people can touch, people can maintain, and also involvement of surrounding people is one of the best solutions to make our water clean. That's the basic before we can go further into whatever. I mean, maybe living units in the embankment, whatever, floating things, that is nice. But this has to be done in very small scale, in maybe in kampung, small scale of area. Yeah, this is what we have in Sunter area. Basically, we have a very big reservoir neglected. This is in close to my house area, very much neglected because this is a factory area, a lot of storage area. The embankment of the water has become very, very bad. What we have done is we asked the government to do pedestrian close to the water, and then the government agree. Pedestrian is changed. This is the situation before. You see, basically on the left side, left drawings, the pedestrians is very close to the street, to the road, to the big road. What we propose, and the embankment, you see, this is typical embankment in Jakarta. Whatever you have, we have dirty things like that. People will throw garbage into that area. What we did a very simple device. We move the pedestrian on the left drawings into a bigger pedestrian area close to the embankment, close to the water. It works very well. Now it becomes something like this on drawings. This is also showing what before it's done. You see pedestrian. If the pedestrian is too far from water, people will not use that as waterfront. That's a sense very. I mean, we need to be very close to the water to do it. This is what happened now, and nowadays people don't throw garbage anymore because it becomes more design is clean. People either they are shy, they don't want to do it because this become a public space area. This is jogging track. This is clean because this is not because of the cleaning people do it every day. This is very much a day-to-day situation now compared to before. You see, before what happened is on the top there's a pedestrian. What we did is basically just move the pedestrian to the lower, make it close to the water. And also we do create public spaces. For two things, we mentioned to the government that with areas of conflict, a lot of conflict in Jakarta, two things can make people keep staying together without any barrier in between because of religions, because of language, because whatever. Two things. One is sport. Second thing is music. This is an area we are planning to do a show on the floating deck or floating stage on the water. And this is the sitting area. We have already tried once. I think it's going to happen after the COVID. The COVID issue will also need to be addressed because right now public spaces has become place that people try to not to go, and also there's a barrier, there's a ban on using that on very tight population area. This is what happened.
Sonny,
Yeah, Bu?
can you end your presentation?
Yeah, okay.
Because yeah.
Okay, basically what we propose, what we see is what happened in Copenhagen can be done if the water is clean. Thank you, Bu. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sonny. It's amazing to see the transformation of all the waterside locations. We would like now to go into the parallel breakout rooms. So there will be 5 groups. Group 1 will be with Daliana and Kai-Uwe. Group 2 will be by me and Peter. Group 3 with Yulia and Reisa and also Pa Luthfi. Group 4 will be with Pa Sonny, Ibu Pauline and Ibu Dini. And group 5 will be moderated by Prinka and assisted by Yasinta. So this will be 20 minutes, and I'll see you in one of breakout rooms. And after that, we will come back into the plenary session. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much. I hope you had a fruitful discussion in your breakout session that addressed some interesting issues and lots of input from Peter as well. I believe now is the time for the question and answer session. And for this, I would like to ask the team to help me with the questions that have been selected. I don't see any questions yet.
Right, so I could help share the screen for a while.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, but I saw in the chat box as well, Kai-Uwe and Peter has been very actively responding to the questions, so that is really nice. So maybe some of this might be repeated, but we could bring the discussions to the bigger audience.
Okay. So there's a question from Rushikesh Hivrekar. It's directed to everyone. How do you manage and treat sewage to adequate degree in these residential complexes? Shall I read them all, the 3 of them, and then I'll give the presenters the time to answer the questions? And then there's a question from Eka Kristalina. It's directed to Peter regarding the urban rigor. You said that this project can be replicated across the world. To what extent do you think this construction needs to be contextualized? And then from Adif and Andika, could you share any information on how the legal or regulation on building residential or any kind of building on water in Denmark works, as it doesn't require any land acquisition? Legal matters due to land ownership still become an issue here in Indonesia. Okay.
I think I would like to, if it's all right, I would like to try to answer all three questions.
Yes, sure.
Unless someone else wants to jump in, also please feel free.
Yeah.
If I would take the first thing, the treatment of wastewater is very interesting, because we've been working with Grundfos as partners of how to handle this in the future rigors. Today we do use the MDG pumps that we pump out the sewage water onto a landline connection, and we actually are more sustainable in the way of that we use, instead of using a large piping system that uses more land space, we actually only use a 2-inch pipe to pump it up, because of the system that we have built on our rigors. We are looking into different solutions of using the rigors with more handling of wastewater. But again, it's all about scalability. The more rigors we have, the more the economy on using the system would be better. And I hope that answers the question on how we handle this. For doing this project around the world, I think it's very interesting, because the whole idea of building the urban rigors has been thinking from the beginning, where can we produce the containers, where can we produce the concrete, and how do we integrate these three things together? In the project we worked with last time was with the containers are delivered from China, and I spent 1 year in China integrating the culture in China to understand how we wanted the factory to build the containers according to what we require in Denmark, and following the regulations in Denmark. And it's not easy, but it is a part that we believe is education. And I think that is the whole idea that we want to do, is to be part of this and make sure that we commission the rigors, and we'll be on location when we do this generally. And all about this is bringing the whole thing together and using the local area to build it together according to the standards that need to be followed. For the legal and regulations on in Copenhagen, I can say that we have to follow two regulations. We have to follow the maritime regulations and the building regulations in Copenhagen. And this has been double commissioning that you need to carry out. One thing is to commission the barges for floating and the housing to float, where you need to make sure that you comply with the pumps in case of a flooding or anything accident happening, and escape routes. But the next thing is also living up to the regulations of the sustainable part in the housing, with proper thermal insulation and stuff that require the high standard of our housing. Regarding location, it's also the biggest issue that we have is location. We need access to a harbor point or a pier point. And in Copenhagen, the pier is 42 kilometers, and it is owned by many different owners. So we have been able to locate the pier here and made an agreement with the owners of the pier. So we have a 10-year agreement with the pier. And then we also have the next ones we have to contact in Denmark is it's the state, it's the government that owns the water. So we also have to apply and lease the water area that we're lying on. And this is the thing that is really good about Copenhagen is that the money that we use for leasing the water is also the money being used to cleaning up the water. So it's a good thing for the Copenhagen harbor that the water gets cleaned by this way, since now you have moved everything away.
Peter, if I can also
I hope
add,
I gave a good.
Yeah, Peter,
thank you so much. Yeah, please, Kai.
Yeah, so thank you, Peter. Eka, I would also like to just add that one very important element to the urban rigor, I hope you noticed, is that there was a tree and plantings in the center of it. We see this as a hugely vital kind of biophilic element. And so the way to contextualize the urban rigor is, of course, to always choose local plantings and local ways that you can use the landscaping also to your advantage. And then, of course, you can use local furniture and local furnishings and some interior finishes that also really make it homey and cozy for local inhabitants.
Sounds really good. Okay, thank you so much. I see there are other questions. So it's from Pasawarendro and Ivan Akbar. Everyone, I think the question is similar. Do you have experience of application of this system at the exposed seawater, not calm water? From practical point of view, is it any limitation of the maximum height? Is there?
This only I can sort of speak to this.
Yes,
so
sure.
of course, I think I hopefully did state that these are not meant to be in open water. These are in protected inlets, in protected piers, or where there are natural spits of water, harbors, protected, because the water movement, of course, is a issue. But because it is actually floating, it is very resilient to tidal movements. And then the concrete ballast is very important to create a very rigid and stable, so that you feel small movements of water, but nothing that makes it suddenly, you know, creating ill or sort of seasickness, nothing like that.
Okay, understood. Yeah, yeah.
And it's also there's for people, it's very hard for people who have never lived on the water to actually understand the beautiful quality of living on water. When you have sunlight that hits the water surface and starts to sparkle your inside walls, it is magical. When you start to smell the life of the water as well, I realized it's not nice to smell a garbage dump, but if these waterways can be cleaned up and you begin to live with the sea life, when you are able to jump into the waters first thing in the morning to cool off, the quality of that lifestyle is pretty magical.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you, because I know that lots of housing areas in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, even in Amsterdam, the water has been, water quality has been improving. So yeah, it's yeah, promising scenario. Can I move to the next question? The management of waste in urban riggers. I think that was addressed in our discussion group. And the landscape quality of the coastline, the impact of the urban riggers on the landscape quality of the coastline. For some people or party who are conservative, they might think that the existence of urban riggers might dramatically change the sea landscape. Peter or Kai-Uwe?
I think this will be both of us answering this. First of all, I can only say that it does not have any dramatically changing of the sea area. It actually contributes to life around the hole in the concrete around the urban riggers, where we actually have lots of mussels growing and creating new life around the structure. Of course, it's all about the size of an urban rigger. We've been asked if we could ask 3 stories or 4 stories, or how big could we make them? And I think it's a very interesting thing to look into, but it's all about trying to look into an architect's way of looking at these things. And that is something that I'm not the designer of urban riggers. I think big is the best designers of these things, and are the ones who can look into what it has of impact if you change the design and what it would mean. So I think it's all about doing the studies correct and looking into how this fits into a location. Kai?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it goes back to the social dynamics. So as you know, we started with 1 rigger, and that's 12 apartments, so 12 pioneers. Now it's a little village of 72 pioneers all living together, and they hang out. There have been romantic relationships begun on the water, floating, And, this is the life that suddenly starts to evolve. And I think that, that will, of course, then start to also encourage shops or people moving there to look at the retail opportunities. And so something like the urban rigor can start to really be a catalyst for changes along the waterfront. And we have to be also very cognizant of the good and the bad things that come with development. But I think that the urban rigor actually is meant to look at those pieces of land that are brownfields and that are underutilized, and actually finding ways to transform those underutilized. So I see urban rigor as being a very positive impact on the landscape quality and the coastline quality where they are implemented.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that we have still some more questions. Okay, this is from Primi Atiningrum, Adif Rivaldi, and Arofatus. To Peter and Pa Luthfi, regarding the change of culture, did you have problem with the resident who may need to adapt to the new way of living? In Indonesia's culture, water or sea is considered as profane area, while the mountain is considered as sacred area. So the water mostly are put behind the house and left not well maintained. You may share your experience about this problem, and how is the role of the community in urban development? Is there any resettlement
Yes.
occurs during the revitalization
So, Ms.
program?
Wiwi,
Yes.
I did answer this question in my little group, but to
Okay.
everyone, Copenhagen in the 1980s was actually very similar to Indonesia and Jakarta today. The waterway, the canal, was very polluted. There were industries just dumping their refuse into the water, and no one would ever think of swimming in the canal water. But it takes a lot of effort from the government, the public works, and people to change the perception of living on the water. I can tell you both from Copenhagen and here in New York, after a generation, 10 to 15 years, these cities have greatly changed, and for the better. And I think that that also is possible where you are in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Kai.
Adding something.
And maybe Pa Luthfi may add something to this.
Yes, based on our experience in Semarang, that yes, I do agree with the.
Can you speak a bit louder, Pa Luthfi?
Yeah.
Your voice
Hello.
is quite soft. Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, based on our experience in Semarang, at the first it's very hard. Yeah, we already discussed this in the smaller group that I do agree with. We have to start as soon as possible right now to doing something. As maybe it's not a big project but a small project. So in our experience, when we are starting to revitalize the Semarang River, it was almost 3 years discussion with the community that living there. So mostly it's like a illegal settlement in there. So almost 3 years, and then after we succeed to have a compromise on that with the community and then with the city stakeholder, and then start the project. After the first project, then now the every single area in the alongside the Semarang River is now asking to the government that they want to revitalize. Then they voluntarily they move to the embankment of the river, and then always waiting for our project to make the river more clean and also more utilized, and can be like one of the tourism activity in the city. So yes, the culture is always challenging, but if we start first, then the next is more easier for us.
Okay, thank you so much, Pa Luthfi. Perhaps Pa Sonny would like to give your thoughts as well.
No, I'm okay, Bu.
Okay, okay, thank you so much, Pa Sonny. Let's see, this was the last question, I think. Is it correct? If there are no questions, yes, okay.
Yes, it is correct, Ibu Wiwi.
Okay, thank you so much, Binka. Then I would like to end with the concluding remarks. It's getting late in Jakarta already. So from from the presentations, reflections, and group discussions, we have learned that waterfront design indeed contributes to the creation of sustainable and livable cities in broad sense. Not just the design and technical aspects themselves, but also sustainability, environmental considerations shall also be in mind during the planning and construction process. Yeah, I would like to thank everyone for their contributions to this interactive discussion. There are so many aspects that I have learned as well today, and I hope that with the presentations from Kai-Uwe, from Luthfi, and from Peter, as well as from Pa Sonny and Pa Sutedja, we will be able to create more livable, sustainable waterfront designs. Okay, I would like to hand over the present time to Pauline.
Okay, Vivi, thank you. And thank you all participants who stayed up until this end. And don't go leave the meeting first, because we are going to take a group photo later on. But before we end this session, I would like to mention special thanks once again to the sponsors, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Republic of Indonesia, Grundfos, Sutedja, Indonesian Diaspora Network of the Netherlands, and the Embassy of Denmark to Indonesia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and ASEAN. And the organizing committee has disseminated the feedback questionnaire on chat room. Please fill if you haven't done that. I would like to inform you that IDN Liveable Cities still has 2 upcoming events. The first is Playful and Healthy City, also with Ibu Wiwi, our moderator. And there's also a conference about sustainable water design strategy, concentrating in case studies in Semarang. So please do consider to join. And you could start registering for both events now. And the links are also in the chat room. And then it's now for the time for the group photo. I would like to thank every participant, and it's really great to have you and to receive all the inputs and valuable comments and discussion. Okay.